and welcome back to Geek Warning. I'm Dave Rome, and yet again, James is off somewhere, riding bikes. And so it's just myself and Ronan. Ronan,
Yep.
hello.
Hello, Dave.
How's it going?
It kind of went all right last week. Well, I didn't hear any complaints. Perhaps you did.
No complaints. I mean, maybe people just switched off within the first 5 minutes and decided it wasn't worth the effort. But
Perhaps
anyway,
it was
we're back.
highly edited.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, we're back and trying to keep things semi-professional. We've even got a run sheet of things to talk about. There's some news in the bike industry yet again on the industry side, but also on the product side. We've got some new wheels. We've got a cool little announcement from a loved bag company. We've got a funny saddle, which I think everyone knows exactly what that is. And then, we've got our usual On Your Mind and also a pick one. So before we dive in, I just wanted to do a little ad read for ourselves. For those that aren't already a member, you can now join us either monthly or annually. And for those that just want to try out what's new, we're currently offering a $1 sale for the first month. So not only do you receive full access to all Escape Collective content, you'll also have access to our exclusive podcasts and ad-free episodes. And those exclusive podcasts include the new Ask a Wrench episode that we launched last week for Geek Warning, and there is plenty more special episodes of Geek Warning coming. It also includes Ronan's Performance Process podcast, which is a few episodes in now and definitely worth checking out. So to find out more, simply head to our join page, which is escapecollective.com/join. Select the monthly subscription option and enter the code podcast in all caps at the checkout, and that'll let you redeem the special offer. All right, and one other thing, we've got a little corrections corner from our most recent Ask a Wrench episode. We spoke about compression plugs and carbon fiber. This is something only our members would have heard, but
I was going to say, non-members should block their ears now because...
Yeah, you didn't get this. You got cut off way before this came up. But we were talking about compression plugs and carbon fiber, and we mentioned that the Cane Creek expander plug is one to avoid. Just to clarify, we were specifically speaking about the Cane Creek EE nut, which was it's a now discontinued product, which was one for the weight weenies. It kind of worked a bit like a star nut, but was designed for carbon fiber steerers. I thought I'd just add a little correction that Cane Creek's new expander product, the Ancora, is actually just quite fine. Perhaps not quite as long as the ones we were recommending, but in every other way meets the demands of the sort of product we were suggesting. So anyway, there you go. Ronan, should we talk about some news?
Yeah, let's get on with the show.
I'm looking at the list, and first up are some new wheels from Princeton.
Yes, the new Wake 6560s dropped this week, and they're said to be 8 watts faster than the ZIP 454 NSW V2 in the A21 tunnel. They've got a hooked and holeless rim design, so basically you've got your hooks there to keep your tires in place, and you've got no holes to cause you tubeless issues.
It's a choose your own adventure with tires.
More or less, yeah. I maybe should have started with the fact that they're available in both disc and rim brake, which is an extreme oddity in this day and age.
That is strange for a new wheel to be released in rim brake.
They're lighter, stiffer, faster than the previous 6560s, as you might expect. And I think most eye-catchingly, they're available in 8 different color options with 7 different hub options.
How are they doing the color options? Is it just stickers on the rim, or?
Are you familiar with the sort of Princeton almost half a rim colorway option where, they effectively paint like half the rim in whichever the options are gloss and matte black and white, chrome, gold, rose gold, high-vis yellow, purple, glossy blue.
Wow.
The hub options, you've got DT Swiss 240s, you've obviously got the Tactic TR01s and 02s, Chris Kings, or 45Ds, DT's 180s. Depending on the hub option you go for, they range in weight from 1,570 grams, which isn't all that impressive, but with the Tactic TR01, you're getting down to a claimed weight of 1,365 grams, which, for the depth of these rims, that is sort of...
To confirm the depth is 65 mil, is it?
Probably should have said from the start also, it's the sort of wavy rim, sinusoidal wave, like undulating rim depth. So it's whatever depth you want it to be, Dave.
Depends where you measure from.
Depends where you measure from, exactly.
What's the largest camel hump in the wheel?
I don't think there was an exact...
Like, is that where the naming comes from? 65-60? Would that mean it undulates between 60 to 65?
That's my understanding of their sort of nomenclature, yes.
Okay.
I mean, like in terms of the other rim dimensions, you've got a 21 internal and a 28.2 maximum external. And interestingly...
Narrower than I thought it would be externally.
Yeah, and I actually sort of reached out to Princeton about that, and specifically about the fact that they've mentioned in their press release surrounding these wheels that they are optimized for 25mm tires on which professional cyclists currently race. And that was a quote, which I found a little strange given that, well, basically all those tires that I looked at the tour were like 28s or 30s. I didn't see anybody on 25s. Now, granted, I did spot 25mm tire Conti GP5000 STRs on the front wheel of Princeton's Alta 3532 wheel set in the back of the Ineos truck at the start of the Vuelta. Didn't see 25mm at the Tour though, which was sort of what I was thinking here. So I sort of reached out to Princeton just to confirm that 25mm claim wasn't a typo or something, or where exactly that was coming from. The answer I got was that the new wheel is aerodynamically more efficient with 25s, but it's 28.2 max external width, so it will work pretty well with the 28 was the claim. Sort of interestingly, they said that linked back to the decision to stick with hooked rims for the meantime, and that, you know, you can go much wider with hooked, but you sort of, this isn't from Princeton, this is my own understanding, is that when you bulge out the rim like that, inevitably for it to fit with a hooked design, you have to you have to bring the rim where it meets the tire back in again. And so if you looked at like a frontal profile, you end up with sort of like a figure of eight profile almost, where the tire is bulging, it's coming in to meet the rim, and then the rim is bulging out again. Princeton wanted a sort of a hook design while all the hookless nonsense is still continuing until they're more confident in that.
Yeah.
So they stuck with the 28.2 external.
Interesting. Yeah, certainly an unexpected width, but and then I guess pricing varies based on hub choice, but
based on hub choice, but also based on the color options are available in
I'd imagine gold is the most expensive
paint tier. So you have paint tier 1, which is sort of the entry level price, and that's matte black or matte white. Paint tier 2 is gloss gold, gloss chrome, gloss black, gloss white, and then paint tier 3 is the
real gold,
rose gold.
I was actually pretty closer.
Purple,
Yeah.
couple of others. I think more interestingly about the price, yes, there is 3 pricing tiers. Yes, there's a lot of choices. Yes, it gets a little bit confusing, but the pricing is like, it's more reasonable than I was expecting. A heck of a lot more reasonable than I was expecting, in that the DT Swiss 240 hubs, for example, with paint tier 1, you're looking at $34.50 US for a wheel set. With Tactic TR01 top line hubs, you're looking at $4,100 US. I mean, it's not cheap. I'm not saying it's cheap.
You've been spending too long on lightweight wheels, Ronan.
I think maybe I have. Yeah, I've maybe been conditioned to pricing a little bit there, but I was maybe expecting much more than that when I scrolled down.
Yeah.
You could pick up a set of these wheels for $3,100 or $3,150 US, which I'm going to get berated for that, but it's not.
Sure. No comment.
I'm pretty sure Princeton have like a single tri-spoke or something that costs as much as that. So
yeah,
that's where I'm basing that on.
Are you intrigued by these wheels? Are you going to call in a pair for review? Are you dubious of any of the aerodynamic claims associated with these? What's your opinion of them?
I'm interested to try these. I don't think I'm dubious of any of the aero claims. I didn't really even delve into the claims here. They're claiming a 3.8 watt saving over the previous version, 7.6 watt saving over ZIP 454 NSWs, 7.7 watts over Shimano C60s. I mean, sometimes you're almost inclined just to scroll past that because nobody's going to, include. Yeah. Our new wheels are slower than, they're. So, and at the same time, it's not some absolutely bonkers claim. So I'm more sort of intrigued to try these wheels, given that they have maintained the hooked rim. They've stuck with an oversized, but sort of regularly oversized rim external width than 28.2 millimeters. They're including external nipples, which, surely it would have been easy to go internal there and get some tiny, small extra gain that would have had you and James bang your heads against the wall. Yeah, so for those reasons, I'm sort of, I like a look at them.
Okay.
Would want to try them.
Interesting. All right, so maybe one for review. All right.
Yeah,
next
I mean,
on the list.
we were asked if we want a review set. I said
Okay.
we would be interested. Didn't really follow it up any further than that. Maybe this is one we should ask the audience. Do they want to see a review of this wheel set?
On that note, we always post our podcast to our website, escapecollective.com. And more recently, we've been making those posts a bit more useful with a summary of what we discuss, with links off to where you can find more about the product. So say like the press release of the product, you'll find a link to that. Yeah, so jump into that post and you can leave a comment there. All right, next on the list, we got a funny saddle. Kaylee Fretz of our team wrote this and did a bit of a short history of funny saddles, but the saddle spur. I think if you've been on Instagram recently and you follow any of the cycling meme accounts, you've probably seen this already. Basically looks like a sex toy. But yeah, Ronan, thoughts on this? You're kind of the target market for this. I'm keen to get your thoughts.
No, my thoughts on this, I don't think I am the target. I don't think there is a target market. I'm convinced this is an April Fool's that's been published early, or it's some sort of a scam or something to swindle loads of people who happen to fall into the cyclist and sex toy crossover market out of hundreds of dollars. Because, well, £125 this saddle is. I mean, I'm going to get to the spur part, or what I think is the spur part, in a second. What I want to first of all mention is just the fact that tail aside, the rest of the saddle looks nothing like a saddle. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's shaped like a saddle, but can't see any part of that saddle that looks like it's going to be good to. I mean, like you talk about leg rub or
it looks like a chafy one.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no tapering there. There is tapering, obviously, but it's done very, very slowly.
It's basically a triangle along its length.
The other thing that jumped out to me that I could well have been mentioned somewhere, I haven't paid the saddle all that much attention, but the thing that jumped out to me that I hadn't heard mentioned so far is that the main photo doing the rounds of this saddle features the saddle spur saddle mounted backwards on a seat post. Sort of indicates to me that perhaps they haven't paid a heck of a lot of attention to maybe any aspect of the design of the saddle. So yeah, what's your thoughts?
I mean, other than the look, I mean, you read their own website and you kind of start to feel like maybe they themselves realize how ridiculous it looks. Saddle spur is more than just a seat. Jump on. But yeah, I think it's very
intentional there.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of concept has been done before, where it's sort of like the spur is there to provide you support that in theory lets you kind of push back against the saddle and recruit other muscles is the theory behind it. To me, having something that prevents you from getting off the back of the saddle just tells me that whoever designed this probably isn't very good at descending. Legitimately, like there's no way to be dynamic on a bike when you can't get behind the saddle. Like in an emergency, you need to shift your weight back so you can really use that front brake, and you're not going to be able to do that with the saddle. In descents, you sort of move around, you move the bike around underneath you a lot more than I guess some people realize, and again, this would inhibit that. So yeah, all the photos show kind of I'm gonna get some comments on this, but somewhat kooky tri-riders, I guess, in using it. But for me, I think as a proper road product, I just don't see it being a super practical invention.
I'm still not convinced it is an invention.
Right. I don't see it being a very practical April Fool's joke.
I mean, was there even a claimed weight? Was there any other mention of anything else that you want to know about a saddle, like the width, the length? I suppose where would you even measure it from? For once, actually, the height is an important aspect in terms of this saddle.
I don't want to be a gatekeeper here, but like the bike they've chosen to photograph it with is, it's got full fenders on it, the quill stem doors from, I'm guessing, the early 90s, maybe late 80s. So, it's got STI shifters, so it's more late 90s, but it's on a very dated bike, and it's not Yeah, you'd think for their marketing material, they'd go to some effort to show it on a modern bike, but that's definitely not the case. So anyway, I think we've probably all everyone in media has probably given it more attention than it ever deserved. So yeah, let's just say it's not one we'll be reviewing, and it's not one where we plan to talk about again. So, but speaking of things, saddles, also on the list, Ass Savers. They started as a company making sort of plastic fenders that you slotted into your saddle rails and gave yourself a little bit of spray protection when you get caught out in the rain. And, it was a fender that didn't help anyone else if they were behind your wheel. They've got a new product, the WinWing 2. So it's an update on their WinWing, which is basically a seat stay mounted fender that sort of sits directly above your wheel and is designed to more effectively prevent spray without having a full length fender. Again, probably not a huge help for someone directly sitting on your wheel, but definitely an effective way to keep yourself clean and dry. But yeah, the new model, it's basically stiffer, stronger than before, now in proper black, whereas before it was in grey. And there's now frame protector stickers supplied so you don't rub up the paint on your seat stays. So yeah, they've released a gravel version which fits up to tyres of 60mm. And they got a road version coming, which is for tyres up to 35mm, which isn't quite out yet. But yeah, for €26, it seems pretty good. Ronan, did you ever use the last one, the previous WinWing?
Not that. No, I've had a few of the original Ass Savers, not the WinWing. I'm all for it. I think I would happily stick one of those on my gravel bike on any bike. But I am also the kind of person who just tends to go for full length mudguards, especially this time of year. I think there's just so much value in terms of saving your own kit, enjoying your own ride more, and wet, cold rides. Or Group Ride has a rule that you have to have mudguards from this time of year onwards. I usually get a bit of a buy ball because it's sort of accepted that I may well have to be on a bike that's not mine. But I also, if it's a particularly wet day, I especially I just avoid going out with a group, because I think in terms of just saving your kit, that is the biggest value of these things. And, the new Ass Saver there will actually save your back from quite a lot of the spray, keep your rear end dry. And especially on gravel, that's usually all you really want. Like the spray off the front wheel, unless you go through like a water feature or something, isn't quite the same as it is on the road. Yeah.
What is your choice of full length fender when you're in a group?
Well, right now, I'm trying to remember. I did do like a dedicated winter bike build a couple of years back. Can't remember exactly which mudguards or fenders I put on that. I mean, I'm going to say SKS because that's usually where you go. But right now, this year, I'm on Domane. So I'm running the Domane specific guards. Gotcha. And I've only had them out for a few spins so far, but enjoying them quite a lot. We're going to turn this into a PSA of some sort accidentally. But one of the most frustrating things about riding in a group at winter is not the person without the mudguard, because there may be different reasons why they have a mudguard. And quite often that person might try to sit at the back or whatever, so they don't spray others if everybody else in the group has a mudguard. But the really annoying thing is someone who has a mudguard that isn't quite long enough, because it just has the exact same effect as having no mudguard on your rear tire, and you're still getting sprayed in the face. You're otherwise dry and clean and that, but you get stuck behind this one person. You tend to be behind them for the whole day, and their mudguard isn't quite long enough, so you still end up caked. And that's where the thing I usually look for in mudguards is, yes, how do they mount? You want, you obviously need a frame that will take proper full length mudguard mounts, and the full setup there with mudguard mounts. If you go in that direction, there are options available through, quick release skewers and through axles and different ways of mounting them to your frame. Like you said, with the frame protector on this one, you need to sort of be careful that you don't damage your frame if you're mounting them directly to the frame. But after all that, one of the features I look for on mudguard is actually the tail of the mudguard extends below the level of the rear wheel, or the hub. I was going to say the rear wheel hub, but
yeah,
if you're doing this right, both your hubs should be at the same height. That's a feature I look for. And actually, there's a company sort of semi-local to myself, feathertail.cc. I think they only offer one product, but it's like an extender for mudguards. It's just like a little tail that goes on the end of your mudguard to make it long enough if it's not already long enough.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah. Okay. So below the axis of the hub is what you want.
That's typically. I find that if it's above the axis of the hub, then you're going to be spraying the person behind you. You'll be dry, gotcha. But let's think of everybody else around us here.
Yep, cool. So Air Savers, basically nothing in their product range achieves that. But yeah, Air Savers is probably more if you want to be selfish and just keep yourself dry. It's a good option.
I mean, there's a lot of people a lot of groups just don't care about that at all.
Yeah.
I would say once you've tried full length fender and you're in a group that also has full length fenders, you'll never want to go back. But in the meantime, something like the Ass Saver is going to save your ass.
So Sydney hasn't been the driest place in the last few years, but I somewhat ashamedly am a rookie when it comes to fenders. My e-bike commuter had fenders. I didn't like the look of them. I took them off, and that is the only set of fenders I own. I used to have fenders for my mountain bike, but I don't anymore.
I think the aesthetic seems to be the biggest hurdle for most people. E-bike commuters, I mean, I cannot forgive you for that one. Like,
so mine was that anytime I'd go down a curb or more than a curb, the tail of the front fender would hit the edge of the curb. Let's say stairs, because a curb you can lift the front wheel off of. But yeah, for stairs, the fender would catch, and that was terrifying. And perhaps a sign that I shouldn't be riding stairs on my commuter bike. But yeah, I think that's mainly what led me to get rid of them.
Similar note, I had a lend of the Tern GSD sort of cargo bike recently. One of our local bike shops, the Bike General, was going off on holidays. He has one of these bikes, asked me if I wanted a lend of it to try it out while he's away. I gladly accepted that. Loved the bike. One of the things that the fender comes almost down to ground level on the front wheel, and caught a couple of times, scared the crap out of me. But once I kind of knew what it was fine. After that, it was just sort of... so I know where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was that aesthetics seems to be one of the major hurdles, and then people just thinking it's a race bike, I can't put mud guards on it, and it's like,
I'm also allergic to riding in the rain, so there's that.
I'm obviously just a product of the group ride that I grew up in, but that rule's always been there. But I'm glad that I've been brought up in that way.
Good. Well, yeah, it sounds like the right way to do it if you are riding in the rain. And,
I mean, you talk about rain. It's like an Irish summer. You've got warm rain. The rain here is very cold and can very quickly spoil any ride. No,
it makes sense. No arguments from me. I'm just a newbie when it comes to it. All right. In industry news, there's more bad news out of the UK, it seems. So yeah, closure of not closure, but a Wiggle being in an administration is suddenly some of the biggest news out of the UK in recent time, and they continually are looking for I guess a way out, someone to buy the brands. But so also out of the UK comes news from Excel Sport. So they're the parent company to brands like Highbike, Ghost, Lapierre is probably the one that most of our listeners would know about. They own Raleigh, they own XLC is their component company. But yeah, the news is that they are basically going through, in corporate speak, a restructure, a strategic alignment. More general speak, they're basically almost shuttering their UK office in terms of Raleigh UK. The reports are that they've let go of a huge percentage of the staff.
Apparently 250 staff brought down to just 15. I'm not sure if those numbers have been confirmed or not, but that's what I'm hearing.
That is absolutely enormous. And I mean, they're claiming the word synergy appeared in the press release for this. But yeah, it seems like they're closing the parts and accessories business in the UK. They are shutting the warehousing and going third party for that. It doesn't bode well for their confidence in the UK market going forward. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Ronan?
I mean, they announced this news in an incredibly long-winded sort of statement, and you sort of knew from the get-go of that statement that there wasn't good news coming. I mean, it's unfortunately these sorts of announcements are no longer a surprise. We've had bad news today also from GCN Plus. I'm not sure what much else you can add to that, really. It's just obviously shocking timing for everybody. The people involved here is usually where you go to. It's just unfortunately all too familiar for some of the members of Escape Collective.
Yes,
almost a year to the date. So
yes, being acquired by a big brand and it not working out is very familiar and seems to be causing all sorts of havoc in the UK industry as times are tougher at the moment. Anyway, thoughts. I feel like I say this every week in our podcast at the moment, but yeah, thoughts go out to those that are in the job market in this time, and without the job they poured their heart and soul into. On a happier note, Black Friday is near, but Ortlieb, the bag company, deciding not to participate in a traditional sense. Rowan, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think it was a few years ago, they said in response to the culture of rapid consumerism surrounding Black Friday, they were introducing their repair week, and that's happening again this year. I think it's kicked off already. It's going on until December 3rd. But basically during that time, Ortlieb is offering repairs to its bags at 40% off the usual price, which is apparently already quite reasonable. So for any Ortlieb bag or product that's outside its 5-year warranty period, you can get it repaired for 40% off the usual price. Although, since that press release landed with us, we got further confirmation that actually for UK customers, they have the opportunity to get their Ortlieb bags repaired free of charge. You just pay the postage, but it's all to do with the way the products are made in the first place, and that they are made with sort of repair in mind, and they use parts that are on the bags are replaceable, and the bags are just pretty durable as they are anyway. The guy had one for my entire time. I had two, for my entire time at Sustrans. I will say I sort of milked the idea that we should cycle for as many of our commutes as possible, and with some of my schools up to like 50 or 60 miles from my house, and I was commuting each way with 2 Ortlieb bags on the back through Irish winters, uphill and down dale. I thoroughly tested these things. By the time I handed them back, they were showing no signs of wear, and that was 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, I think it's very cool to see, and I think it sort of reinforces that where possible, I mean, do your research and support the brands that support their own products. Support the brands that encourage you to repair and reuse rather than just replace. There's a number of brands out there. I mean, Ortlieb aren't the only ones. Like Apogura is another one that comes to mind in the bikepacking bag space that have a similar sort of ethos. And yes, these bags are more expensive up front, but I mean they're legitimately designed and supported to ideally be the last bag you buy. So it's cool to see.
I get a bit of stick for my love of Albion garments.
Oh yeah,
just because I tend to wear them a bit more often than I should wear cycle clothing. Very rarely wear them on the bike. Johnny and Keely particularly like to poke fun at me, but that was actually one of the things initially attracted me to that brand, was that they actually offer free repairs. Believe I'm correct in saying that they just offer free repairs all the time, and they have like a repair kit you can actually purchase and just do repairs at homes and that as well. So yeah, it's definitely something I try to keep front and center. Unfortunately, it's not all that easy to do that with most purchases, but where possible.
Should we talk about what's on our mind?
Yes, I've had something on my mind for months that I finally have the confidence to offload.
What is it, Ronan?
It's tear-offs.
Okay.
I'm not talking about like you all know I'm into my Formula 1. I'm not talking about visor tear-offs. I'm not even talking about could we make cycling glasses tear-offs, which I think has been tried in the past.
In downhill racing are absolutely a thing, and they even there's a few companies. They're not super popular. Most of them just tear off by their hands, but there are electric tear-offs with like remote controls that you mount to the handlebar.
Oh man, this should be a downhiller.
Yeah, I know you should. But no, what tear-offs are you talking about?
It's an inside joke on an Instagram message I sent you earlier. I'm talking about, and this isn't very, given the topic we discussed immediately prior to this, isn't the tear-offs aren't the most environmentally friendly thing we could be discussing immediately off the back of that.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, despite that poor timing, I'm going to go ahead. And you remember at Onbound this year, you had that peanut butter that clogged up, not actual peanut butter, but the gravel turned mud that
caused a huge number of DNFs. Yeah.
Yes, and destroyed bikes and all sorts. And even if it didn't destroy your bike, it destroyed your race. I'd been wondering since then if we used frame protectors, the kinds that, you see ones from like Ride Wrap and Invisiframe and that. If you had taken the time before that, or going forward into next year's Onbound, to put a few layers of those frame protectors along the inside of your chainstay, seat stay, have them overlapping, have the furthest end not stuck to the frame protector sticker immediately below it, and when you get caked up in mud, you simply stop, remove your rear wheel, tear off one of the frame protector layers. Suddenly you've got a bike with no mud. Put your rear wheel back in, and away you go.
What do you do with the tear off?
You should really put that in your pocket and take it with you.
Yeah.
You know, you can shake it clean.
Sure.
Put it in your pocket, take it with you.
So straight away, have you used the Ride Wrap frame protectors?
No, I've used them Visi frames.
Gotcha. They're pretty sticky. They kind of I don't know how you'd go about layering them in that sense, but I think like the idea, like maybe cling wrap might be another option. But yeah, I don't think that exact product will work, but the idea of a tear off could work in this sense. I will say that it makes sense. I think carrying the tear offs in your pockets are probably going to be a hindrance.
You only have to get to the first aid station.
Okay.
Or the next aid station, and then you can offload
Gotcha.
it.
And then you can offload it.
Responsibly dispose of it.
Have you considered like the old trick in mountain bikers is spray on cooking oil. So you just coat the bike with basically PAM, which is like a Teflon spray, and then it creates like a non-stick surface to your bike. More recently in the Olympic Games, we saw like Yolanda Neff, who won the mountain bike. She had sort of duct tape done in like this, I don't even know, a wavy sense. So as mud stuck and as she went off, say a drop, the duct tape would sort of shake off the mud. So, I mean, maybe that could be an option as well, but it wouldn't stop. Yeah, I guess you're talking about like
work on the
clogging
inside
of the rear wheel.
Rear triangle.
Yeah. And the PAM would only be so effective. So maybe there is real merit to your concept.
It's a thought that crossed my mind almost immediately when the news started coming out of the problems that Unbound did earlier this year, and I sat on it for a long time because I thought that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But I think there might be some legs, and it's worth trying. I haven't really considered, what strength of tape you would need, or the various sort of issues that may arise from that. I can imagine you get to the last layer of frame protector, not realize it's the last layer, and yank on it too hard and take a whole layer of paint or something with it. There's ways this could go wrong. I will admit that much.
Yeah, I mean, people are already taking paint off their frames through the mud. So, I mean, it's not, you're losing some anyway. But, yeah, okay. It's probably one to play with in some sense. I think, I think there might be merit to that for at least, keeping the rear end clean. The idea of tear-offs does remind me of something I once did. And please stop me if you've heard me say this before. I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I once did a national single speed race. It was muddy. It was a wet day, and I thought it'd be very funny to have a fresh skin suit for every lap. So I started the race with 7 skin suits. It did take quite a while to get into them. But I didn't think it through because that's 7 chamois. So for the first few laps, I couldn't sit down because I couldn't reach the pedals. And then I can't remember exactly how many skin suits I had, but it turned out not to be enough. And by then, the crowd had gotten used to me taking one off every lap. There were many things wrong with this. On the first lap, I watched the faster riders leave me in their dusters. I had to take my shoes off to get one skin suit off. So yeah, I was also overheating on this cold day. So, I mean, it didn't work out the way I had initially planned, but, anyway, the compromise was not to remove the last skin suit, but to fold it up into basically, into being almost as close as I could to a Speedo was the compromise I came to. Yeah, that was, an eventful race. We'll put it that way.
I'm thinking those, pit stops sort of compromised your finishing time.
That, and also that I was a bit of a lightweight when it came to drinking, and didn't consume beer, and decided that those races tend to allow you, if you have an adult beverage, you tend to be allowed shortcuts in the track, and I wanted those shortcuts, and so in one of my final laps when I'd already run out of skin suits to take off, and I'd folded the skin suit into being a Speedo, I had a little bit too much and went over the handlebars and got disorientated and couldn't find my bike for 5 minutes. There I was, just basically almost in the nude, standing in the trail, asking people if they'd seen my bike.
Oh, God. Shall we end this week's episode on that note? I'm joking.
It's a good one.
Going back to my tear-offs idea. I think you will agree it's better than one of the suggestions that I had put to me, which was to carry one of those portable pressure washer, battery operated pressure washers that exist now, or to have a full scale pressure washer in the pit zone, which
Are you allowed to do that?
Oh yeah. Well, it's not really
Okay.
a pit, is it? It's like an aid station. You can have power hoses, pressure
Yeah.
washers. But I'm mostly just poking the bear here.
Yeah, I'd say rather than a pressure washer, which are even the smallest ones are pretty heavy, a bidon of water carried specifically for washing off your bike might be a way to go.
Mm.
I know a lot of the pros use paint sticks just to shove the mud out of the way. I think that's the proven technique, but yeah, I don't know.
The final question mark I have in that was: is it even possible to remove a rear wheel when it's that badly clogged?
It can be pretty
on the side
hard.
of the trail.
Yeah, can be pretty hard. So, yeah, if it's the kind of mud that stops your wheel from turning, it's pretty nasty regardless of what you do. You know, even a pressure washer would take a while to break through that kind of mud. So it's the best answers there are normally like get a tire that sheds mud pretty rapidly and doesn't clog. Like get a tread pattern that is probably a little bit on the lighter, less grippy side, and get a frame with really ample tire clearance around that tire, and sort of hope for the best through that.
What's on your mind?
Really, just I was just keen to know what you've been testing. What's coming up, and that's basically all on my mind at the moment. Is all the things that are waiting for me to put back in boxes and give back, and I need to write them up first. So
Yeah, I'm all too aware of that feeling at the moment. It's been difficult to get testing here at the moment, or reviewing, just given weather. You know, we had Halloween break and all sorts of dilemmas in the house. So it's I've been mostly at the laptop and keyboard of late, which is not easy. But in terms of what I'm actually working on writing up right now, still the Cannondale. That's a work in progress, but it is the Super 6 Evo. Yep. Yeah, and just trying to get the words out on that one. That's not the challenge at the moment, but that's what I'm working on at the moment mostly. Colnago V4 RS there. And then, as you mentioned earlier, lightweight wheels. A few sets of wheel sets at the moment, actually. Had the Craft Racing Works CS 5060 wheel set arrived last week. That's the 1290 gram 50 and 60 mil deep carbon wheel set from Craft Racing Works at $1,680 a set. Putting that Princeton pricing that I was talking about earlier into perspective.
Yeah.
Those just arrived, as did the Polymer Workshop Venture and Enhance wheel sets.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Okay. Yeah, pretty new brand.
What's their story? Where are they from?
They are Danish, and they have just introduced a new, their Enhance wheel set is like a 50 and 52 millimeter deep road wheel set, and their Venture is a 38 mil deep sort of all road offering. Tubeless, obviously, that goes without saying almost these days. Interchangeable carbon spokes, really sort of wide profile rims. Off the top of my head, I think it's like 34 mil externals. Okay. Hookless. The all-road wheels, a 38 mil deep rim, coming on 1,360 grams. The deeper, sort of more road-specific offering is 1,450 grams claimed weight. That's just what I was about to get to there. Haven't ridden any of these wheel sets yet. They're sort of lined up and waiting to get photographed before I get them all dirty. But yeah, like I just as we're speaking there, I pulled up the sort of dimensions on the road going version of Polymer Workshop wheels, and it's kind of very much like the Roval Rapide sort of idea, in that they've gone for a very wide 35 mil wide, 50 mil deep front rim, with a slightly narrower 31 or 30.7 millimeter external, 52 deep rear rim. So not quite as deep, but that same sort of asymmetric design front and rear.
And other brands have done that as well. Like Roval went the first, but yeah, they certainly are an extreme example of it. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so next bike review from you is probably the Cannondale.
Most definitely will be. Yeah. Also has a sort of interesting set of wheels in it, the new holograms. But yeah, anyway, enough on my wheels. What are you testing at the moment?
I have Specialized wanting their Tarmac SL8 back, so I need to get that done. And I was trying to space out my Specialized reviews a little bit, because I think the Not the last bike I reviewed was a Polygon, but before that was also a Specialized mountain bike, and I was kind of just trying to give them a little bit of breathing room, but that might not happen. So yeah, SL8.
Is that a slight hint that you're just looking for more time for the SL8?
Yeah, possibly, but no, it's I've got enough riding on it, but it's yeah, I guess spoiler alert to all the Specialized haters, you're wrong. It's a great bike. There's that. I've got a entry level Trek Domane AL with an impressively bad group set on it, and it's Claris. Okay. My bigger issue is mechanical disc brakes bother me, having 20 years experience riding hydraulic disc brakes. Especially modern mechanical disc brakes don't feel as good as old mechanical disc brakes do. Like I had bikes with Avid BB7s, for example, which is a very light action, very high power, very poor modulating mechanical disc brake, which doesn't really get much attention anymore from anyone that equips bikes. And by comparison, most brands equip brakes from, say, Tektro or TRP, often the dual piston, and I just find that brake very heavy in lever force required to move both pistons of a mechanical brake. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. But yeah, it's got the Tektro version of that brake on it, and the other week I spent 45 minutes bedding in those brakes before they even stopped me close to in a safe way. There's a lot to like in that frame set, but it's unfortunately it's not the level of build that I probably would have preferred to test. So yeah, I think if I were given the one model up from the one that I was given, then it probably would be a different review. But anyway, so I'm riding that. It's kind of an interesting alloy bike that's in theory a road bike that can fit 40 mil tires, which is quite cool. And then got a few tools for a change.
I didn't get the opportunity to ask you to start what your latest tool purchases were, much like James would do on a weekly basis. But I did have a question on that for you, because I'm not sure if you've seen the news this week that 2 astronauts dropped a tool bag worth $100,000 worth of tools into space. I was just wondering, was that your tool bag that they dropped? Is that your entire tool collection?
Yeah. I do lend my torque wrenches to NASA from time to time. I'm hoping, there's a thing of like roadside finds where people find like the 8 mil spanners or 10 mil sockets that mechanics accidentally leave in the cars when they service, and then they rattle out and fall alongside the road. I'm kind of hoping that this just falls out of orbit and becomes the greatest.
It's going to disintegrate on re-entry into
that makes perfect sense. But one can still dream.
Clearly, you wouldn't buy tools that would disintegrate on re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. You'd be looking for higher quality.
Yeah. Dare I say the torque wrench will be out of calibration by the time it does hit the Earth. So, yeah. But one can dream. And so that's kind of what's keeping me busy, is a few test products and still staring down the barrel of an article about brake bed in, and then another article about disc brake pad change that's are very, very deep dives, and I'm going cross-eyed looking at them. So yeah, so those might come. I just need to climb back out of that one.
Not really working on yet, but exploring. Couple of different bar bag and frame bag options, top tube bag options. Don't really need to get into what I'm looking at. I've actually got a couple of lead outs, newest bags. They're Racelite bags, and a couple of Brooks bags. Quite liking the lead out offerings there. Haven't really tried the Brooks all that much yet. I don't know if it's me or if it's frame bags and top tube bags and that, but they just seem incompatible with my knees, regardless of how good, bad, or indifferent the bag is. Or maybe I'm just not tolerant enough of knee rub.
Yeah, you're not alone. I don't run top tube bags for that reason. Anytime I stand out of the saddle, my knees rubs them, and I cannot get used to it, no matter how often I've tried. The only way I get used to it is by changing the way I ride out of the saddle, and I'm not willing to do it. So yeah, I run bar bags for that reason, and yes, not as aero and not as convenient for getting snacks, but I'm also not racing, so it's not such an issue. But yeah, I don't understand the fascination with top tube bags, and I know this is a conversation I've had with Kaylee before, and he's quite fine if frames didn't have mounts on the top tube for this reason. So yeah, I think you're not alone.
Well, it's both good and not so good to know that.
All right, let's move on to our pick one. Obviously, James isn't here, so I did reach out to James and I got his. It was like pulling teeth. He wasn't willing to pick one on this topic. But yeah, so pick one. We're picking a random segment, and well, not so random because we picked it, but we're picking one product from the segment. And this segment, I want to choose sunglasses / eyewear for this category. So James's he did struggle with this. He said he's changing eyewear all the time, but he said probably Smith Optics Ruckus for mountain bike and the Roka Matador Air for road and gravel. So he says the Ruckus for generous coverage and low weight of a frameless design, but the added stiffness with the reinforcing beam up top so the fit isn't sloppy. Excellent range of trail-friendly tints too, plus fantastic optics and outstanding lens durability. Whereas the Matador Air for its very secure fit, excellent tints, and the smart shape that keeps air from drying out my eyeballs and provides a huge field of view, but without being too massive. Lots of nose pieces for a well-tuned fit. Pretty well-reasoned choices. I'll be honest, I actually haven't used either of those models that James has suggested. So yeah, maybe I should add them to my list of things to try.
Yeah, I haven't tried either of those either. Can't really comment on those.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of Roka around here in Australia. They do exist, but yeah, don't see a lot. Smith are pretty big locally, but I've got no real excuse not to have used those. But what's your go-to?
I don't think I have a go-to. I generally speaking, POC glasses tend to work quite well for me. I like the Illicit because they're sort of so light that you can almost forget you're wearing them. I had them in like my favorite things from last year.
Okay.
And yeah, quite like them. I also like just how quickly and easily you can change the lens in them. Funnily, I had mentioned how much I liked them at the time, and James mentioned it just didn't work for him at all. So perhaps I shouldn't try the ones that he's mentioned there if it works in the opposite direction. But I like the original of those. I had the opportunity to try the Illicit TI version of those, which ever so slightly improves the sort of fit and retention and security there. So that to me seemed like a bonus. Although, yeah, I'm not sure it's worth the extra price tag that comes along with those TI version. I'm trying to remember the original POC glasses I had a few years back. I started wearing them again this year. The Ames, they've worked pretty well for me in the past also. I have the Propel, the Aero POC option. I don't particularly like how they look on me. Actually, Aero and that aside, I haven't even like dug into whether or not they are actually faster or not. But just actually the hold and the fit, and one of the big things for me with glasses is how it fits around my nose. I don't know if I've got a weird nose or not, but I always seem to get like a channel of air getting like accelerated through a tiny gap between the nose piece and the glasses, which really leaves my eyes just like really streaming like almost all the time. So that's sort of
I wonder if it's your position on the bike.
Could be, but I don't really think I can change it to.
No.
I mean, I've just always. It could be an allergens thing. Also, I don't really know. Sure. I haven't really looked into it all that much. I've tried Skicons also, or Skicons, however you pronounce
all of the above. Yeah.
Actually, I wore those on my ride today. Can't remember the exact model name, but they also worked for my face. I think if you had to really push me on this to pick one winner from all those, it would either be the Illicit or, and more likely, it would be the Oakley Wind Jacket 2.0s, the huge, ridiculous, big, bonkers looking things. For as awkward as I feel wearing them in non-cycling environments, they just, you
shouldn't wear them in non-cycling environments.
No, but I mean, like you stop for a coffee or something like that, or you're in traffic and the person in the vehicle next to you is looking at you like you're an astronaut or something, out looking for his toolbox. Those work really well for me. Yeah,
for me, I mean, I rode Oakleys while I was racing. I mean, that makes me sound like I was faster than I was, but yeah, I mean, I've ridden Oakleys for years, and I kind of keep coming back to them just because the fit of them is just so consistent for me. A lot of other glasses, especially around the nose bridge, I get discomfort, or the nose bridge sits in my eyesight, or the temples aren't tight enough. Whereas I tend to always find most Oakleys I can be pretty comfortable with. And then you add in their lens quality, and that's sort of why I give my money to them. So Sutro Lite is the model I've found myself using most recently, the most. And yeah, so I have them with both Prism Road and Prism Trail. I've got 2 different pairs, so I don't have to swap lenses. But yeah, so I've got one pair that I use for mountain bike and one pair that I use for road. And I guess compared to the normal Sutro, the Sutro Lite obviously doesn't have the frame at the bottom of the vision, so it's a little bit clearer vision. It's a bit lighter, and the temples have a gripper on them, so they hold my face a little bit tighter, which is good off-road. They don't bounce around as much, so I use those, but they're still a little bit large for like trail mountain bike helmets, I find, and they kind of knock on trail mountain bike helmets. So yeah, in that case, I'm using like Radar EV, an older pair of Radar EV from Oakley, which I don't like the look of as much because they're a bit more dated in their aesthetic, but they at least don't get in the way as much with some helmets. So
give me the radars any day over the Sutros or the encoders.
Yeah, I there was a local online store which I think might have had an error with how they're selling some Oakleys, and for $90 I bought a pair of encoders, like Prism encoders, and I thought for sure they'll just like email me saying, sorry, there was an error on our website, here's your refund. But no, they actually shipped them. Do not like them at all. So not only do they look kooky, the nose bridge just sits way up in my vision. So it's yeah, I'm just not a fan.
There's also the Oakley Catos, which I don't know if it's the same elsewhere, but certainly here where I'm from, if something is terrible, you might say that that's cat. And the Oakley Catos are pretty cat to me.
You know what? I actually think it's not the encoder. It's the Cato that I got.
Oh.
It is the Cato.
They are very similar, aren't they?
Yeah, they're quite similar. I think the Cato has that more pronounced like bump around the nose bridge, but yeah, they easily confused as I've just proven. So,
have you recently tried, like, I don't know, I've got 2 sets of M frames from like 2004 here. And like once a year I'll pull them out of a drawer or something and find them and stick them on and go, oh my God, how do we wear these? They're just like, the lenses are so tiny. It's like every part of the frame is in your field of vision.
Yep. So no, but like, yeah, I've got original radars still, which occasionally get pulled out, and yeah, that's definitely in the same way. It's, you know, the top part of the frame is definitely in your vision. So and that was an improvement on the M frames from memory. So yeah. So
I have the Lance M frames.
Good.
I have a plain pair also, but I have the Lance ones somewhere here.
Only pull them out when you pull out your old Trek 4700 US Postal Edition.
5500.
5500. Yeah, nice with your 10-speed Ultegra.
Sure is.
Okay, quality.
I don't have this bike, people.
Okay. There's still a lot of them floating around.
I mean, yeah, I would like one, but I don't have one though.
But yeah, I guess the lesson here with eyewear is, given all of our different choices where we often tend to agree on some other products, I guess the lesson here is that eyewear is pretty personal. So I think it pays to, if you can, try on a few different models and figure out what's comfortable for you and what doesn't sit in your vision, because turns out our faces are different shapes. Should we wrap up with a PSA?
Yeah, go for it.
We teased this one last week, which was pedal related, and everyone's going to be really disappointed to hear what it actually is. But yeah, I mean, my PSA was just that your pedals need some attention. I mean, they're not something that can just be moved from bike to bike with ignoring them forever. They have bearings in them, and anything with bearings needs maintenance. So yeah, my PSA is that, one, remove your pedals from the cranks once in a while and clean the threads, and then apply ideally an anti-seize, but also alternatively any grease will work. And yeah, just keep those threads lubed, and you know, that way you'll always be able to remove your pedals when you want them to come off the cranks. The other one though is that if your pedal system allows you to, then you should be greasing your bearings. So old Speedplays, for example, where you could remove the tiny little Phillips screw on the end and use a grease gun to pump grease through it. It's a very satisfying feeling, and you should absolutely be doing that more than you probably are doing it. Probably 4 times a year, roughly, if you're riding regularly. And for Shimano pedals, it's a different process, but yeah, there's YouTube videos all around. But you basically take the axle unit out of the pedal body, and all the bearings are contained in that axle unit, and you clean it as best as you can. And you can basically just pump grease into the pedal body, and then when you screw the axle unit back in place, it sort of flushes the old grease out through the end of the axle. So again, pretty satisfying to do, and really not that hard to do. The cheaper Shimano pedals might require a special tool, which costs all of $2 or $3, and is a plastic tool, or otherwise you just need a spanner. So yeah, Duros pedals can be a little bit trickier to do, but models below that are certainly easier. And then yeah, if you've got Look pedals, I'm sorry to hear that, and you probably don't have very many options for servicing the bearings. You can grease the axles, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to be as effective as some of those other pedal systems. So
the thought I had was just around the new Wahoo Speedplay pedals not being user serviceable, but you sort of touched on that.
So they've made can you get bearing kits for them?
I don't know is the honest answer off the top of my head.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe that, if I remember correctly, when I reviewed those a couple of years ago, I don't know if that would really have been an option.
Because I know like Look pedals, in theory, you can service them. Like everything is serviceable if you have enough skills and knowledge to do so, but officially they're not. So yeah, I mean, they once they start to get play in the bearing system and the pedal body is rocking on the axle, then it's effectively a disposable product officially at that point. So yeah, that's why. Another reason why the other week when we had our favorite pedals that we could mention, James and I gave a lot of love to Shimano because they are serviceable, and you can adjust the tension on the bearings, you can rebuild the bearings, you can replace the bearings. As long as you keep them greased and don't let too much grit into that pedal body and ignore them, they'll last for a very, very long time. You know, Ronan, you mentioned Asioma. They actually do offer rebuild kits as well at really good prices, and it's not a super hard thing to do. So
yeah, very easy. I've done that very quick and easy.
If you can, look to pedal systems that are serviceable and or rebuildable, and spend your money there.
Is it worth mentioning, just when we're on the topic of PSAs and pedals, let's extend that to cleats, and just a gentle reminder: check your cleats are in good condition. Because you can actually you can do quite a lot of damage if your cleat breaks, but you can also just, if your cleat is like in bad condition generally, you can start damaging the pedal body, which gets a heck of a lot more expensive.
So yeah, cleats are definitely a wear item, and I think we had a PSA on that not that long ago about, what did we call it? The rock.
Yes. You know what we need is a PSA tracker spreadsheet of some sort.
Yes. So, but yeah, that's definitely a good one.
We often repeat the same ones. So.
Yeah, some of them should be repeated though. You know, so
they bear repeating.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or maybe we could just like create like a service tracker, and we just do PSAs to remind people that it's time to top up your tubeless sealant. It was 3 months since we last said this.
We could make an app and have it not linked to any training software that could automatically update that app with automatic notifications for when service intervals are due. It could be more time consuming to keep the app updated than the actual service jobs themselves, but it could be fun.
All right, I feel like we're rambling. Should we? Do you have another PSA?
No. That's
okay.
That's it for this week.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. I guess we've got some shameless self-promotion to do first. I've got a tool newsletter now, which is called Threaded. So if you have any inkling of interest in cycling tools or bicycle tools or maintenance or even the process of repairing bikes, then I'd like to think this newsletter is just for you. The next one is publishing this week, so by the time you're hearing this, it should already be live. And yeah, we've been publishing them frequently every fortnight. So yeah, jump onto escapecollective.com, find Threaded. You can sign up to get it delivered into your inbox for free. And then that way, yeah, you know when it gets released. So please do that. And Ronan, you've got a podcast that people should sign up for?
Yes, for Escape Collective members only. I have the Performance Process. There's a new episode of that dropping later this week, probably tomorrow by the time you're listening to this. And this week's episode is actually with Jeffrey Hoogland's coach, Mehdi Cordy, who has, we had an absolutely fascinating conversation with Mehdi that publishes this week. You can get a sample of it on our free podcast channel if you want to hear the first about a third of it or so. And then the entire episode is available to members only. When you are a member, you'll get a link to access that podcast. You click that once, and from then on, you get the full episodes dropped into your podcast app of choice.
Yeah, unless you're using Spotify.
Unless you're using Spotify, in which case...
they have stopped that from being an option. Yeah. But yeah, it's, I guess, yes, it's the same story for the new Geek Warning as well. We now have members-only editions of Geek Warning, bonus episodes, which are coming every fortnight. So we've already launched one, which is an Ask a Mechanic. And yeah, again, it's the same process. If you're a member to receive Performance Process, you're a member to receive the Geek Warning bonus episodes. And yeah, that link that gets emailed to you takes you to a page that then has the option to either get an everything feed, so you can get all of our podcasts, or you can pick just the ones you want to subscribe to. If for some reason you're a member and you don't get that email, just jump onto our website, find the post related to that podcast episode, so Performance Process or the members only Geek Warning, and within those articles you'll find a link to get your special RSS feed link for receiving these episodes. So yeah, it as Ronan said, it's a couple of minutes to set it up initially, and then from there on it'll auto-populate in your podcast player of choice. Pretty easy. And on that, yeah, if you haven't already subscribed, I just explained why you should. So please do. And not only that, your subscription helps this podcast be a reality. It funds everything we do at Escape Collective. We are an independent media outlet. We don't have advertising at this time, so your membership money directly goes into the creation of our content and us surviving as a company. And I'm going to say something which might upset existing members, but we don't currently have enough members to be sustainable long term. So we really do need your support. So yeah, if you can, please consider joining. We've got extra bonus episodes for you. We've got more special content coming. And yeah, I'd like to think that we're offering enough value to justify it now. So on that note, should we wrap it up?
Yeah. I think if you've made it this far and got through all of our self-promotion and you're not hearing us, that's because we've forgot to hit record at the start. But hopefully that hasn't happened.
Please don't tell me you forgot to hit record.
No.
All right. That's a wrap on Geek Warning for this week. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.